Hi, you're watching Floyd Steinberg's YouTube channel. Today answering a viewer question, creating the same sound on both Yamaha EX5 and Yamaha Montage M. EX5 is 30 years older than Montage M, so the latter should be a clear upgrade, right? If you want to find out, please join me in this video. Here we go.
Okay, so this is not going to be a tutorial video. Instead, I'll just walk through the steps quickly, showing you the sound on the EX5 first and then immediately on the Montage M. And here I'm selecting the 101 saw wave sound on the EX5. Sounds like this. On Montage, in the Elements screen, press the Common button in the top middle of the screen, and then you can search for Waveform, and if you search for 101 saw there, you will find the same waveform as on the EX5. Now let's add the same wave again and pan it hard right and the first one hard left, first on the EX5 and then on Montage. Now let's detune both oscillators ever so slightly, first on the EX5 and then on Montage. I'll add two more oscillators named P5 saw to the left and right side of the spectrum. Although this is a time-lapse, you can clearly see doing the same thing on the Montage takes much more clicks and screen switches. Next, I'll add the same 24 decibel low-pass filter to all the oscillators, and it will be open a quarter roughly. Okay, I forgot to mention the most important point in the introduction of this video. I'm going to use the same effects, the same waveforms, and most importantly the same number values found on the EX5 on the Montage and see how that sounds. Now let's continue. On Montage I can use the faders on the left side of the keyboard to mute oscillators quickly. And now I'll add filter envelopes, so the filter will open softly and then close down a bit and then fade out slowly if I release the key. Both synths can use filters and envelopes on each oscillator individually. I applied exactly the same numbers and values to Montage M's filter envelope and filter cutoff frequency settings, but I found using the same numbers on the filter envelope depth would result in a sound much too dark. It's barely audible then. So I adjusted that a bit. Both synths handle LFOs in roughly the same way. Each oscillator has its own individual LFO that can then control amplitude, pitch, and filter cutoff frequency. On Montage, the whole process looks a bit nicer, takes more clicks, but essentially is the same. Next, I'll add velocity sensitivity to this sound, so hitting the keys harder will open the filter a bit more, resulting in a brighter sound. 7 levels of velocity sensitivity are available. While on Montage there are 64, so I had to adjust the value a bit. I guess because of its weighted keyboard, Montage reacts quite differently to velocity sensitivity, so I had to adjust the values even more, because otherwise the sound would have been much too dark. Next I'll add effects. Both synths have 2 insert effects and 2 global effects to choose from. Interestingly, Montage has nearly the same selection as EX5. Not a lot has changed in almost 30 years. And interestingly, the effects sound nearly the same on both machines, and Montage only adds a handful of so new effects. And I have to say, I would have expected some kind of modulated delay effects and reverb effects on Montage. I mean, come on. But for this comparison video, that's a good thing. In the last step, I'll add Aftertouch to this sound, so if I press the keyboard, it will open the filter as well. EX5 has channel Aftertouch, so pressing down one key will affect all the notes played currently. And Montage has the advantage here because it has polyphonic aftertouch, so each note can be expressed individually. For a scientifically accurate comparison, we need to record a MIDI sequence, so the sound isn't affected by my style of playing on both keyboards. Both play exactly the same MIDI sequence here. And for this, I'm using my RetroKids RK008 hardware sequencer to capture some chords. Okay, let's quantize this and play it back. And now I just can carry over the sequencer and connect it to the montage. Yep, the filter is a little bit more open on Montage, and I guess there's a little bit more of resonance there, but all in all I think we can agree this is roughly the same sound, and they sound pretty identical here. That being said, here is one example where EX5 clearly has the edge, and then another example showcasing what Montage can do that EX5 can't do.
Okay, this is my patch set, and one of the patches is called August Rain. Put a lot of effort into the details, so if you play this carefully, it's just an analog sounding patch. You can use the mod wheels to detune those saw waves a bit. And then you can adjust LFO speed with the ribbon or modulation wheel 1. If you hit the keys a little bit harder, you will hear chime sound. And you can also use Aftertouch for a filter sweep effect. It's a quite complex sound. Okay, so let's take a look at how I made this. Press the edit button and you can see we're using the FDSP algorithm here, but it's a very subtle use and on one of the oscillators only, so we can ignore this for the time being. There are 4 oscillators. We can go through pitch, filters, amplitude, LFO, control and effects. And what I'm going to do now is I'll take a photo of each of these screens and then I'll head over to the Yamaha Montage and reproduce all the settings one by one and value for value. And then we'll see if this sounds exactly like the EX5 does. Now, creating this sound on Montage was a bit more challenging because some things are missing here. Let me show you what I mean. First thing, while all the waveforms are there, Montage, compared to EX5, only has 2 decay phases. So we've got decay 1 and decay 2. On the EX5, we've also got decay 3. The way this sound fades away is a little bit less detailed here, because on EX5 I had this phase where the sound slightly increases in volume over time. I can't do that on Montage. Similar thing for the filter envelope. Again, we've only got decay 1 and decay 2 here. Decay 3 is missing. And also, the double bandpass filter that EX5 has is missing here. It just isn't there. So we've got a huge selection of filters, but that particular one is absent. So I had to use the high pass cutoff filter to take away the lower frequencies of the pad sound. Also, in EX5 it's possible to add another static filter to each oscillator, further shaping the sound, which isn't possible on Montage. Going back to the editor screen, another thing that's missing on Montage is the Celeste effect. So I had to go with the ensemble detune here. This sounds roughly the same, but not really. So I used this preset here, soft wide, which adds a little bit more stereo spread, but it just doesn't sound the same. There's some nuance missing there. But one thing that's possible on the Montage, and that naturally isn't possible on EX5, you can switch this extended element switch on here and then increase the number of oscillators drastically. So we can go to 8 all the way up to 128 oscillators, so you can create any sound you like to, if you want to. But we won't do that here. Of course, you can just go back to performance mode and replace the normal reverb with the shimmer reverb. Right, now let's listen to both sounds and compare them. Yeah, and that's it for today. Trying to create exactly the same sound on a synthesizer that's 30 years newer than its predecessor. And my takeaway here is, I often wonder why we never can get a clear as day upgrade to an existing synthesizer, but who am I to know the story behind product development? All in all, Montage is the superior synth compared to EX5, but let's be honest here, it could be even better. So if you think this was an interesting YouTube video, please do the YouTube thing. You can also become a channel member or join my Patreon, but there's no pressure. As always, thanks for watching and see you again very soon. Bye bye.